Hi, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to kind of go over what credit cards are because apparently a lot of people still have some misconceptions on how credit cards work. So we're gonna dive right in and see the breakdown. So what are credit cards? They're basically revolving lines of credit. So what are revolving lines of credit? What does it mean? That means that every single month when the time comes for you to pay, and you pay it, it just basically rolls over. It keeps rolling over. That's called a revolving line of credit. So if you have a revolving line of credit, right, and let's say you have your credit card has a $5,000 limit, all right, you'll notice that on the credit card you'll have a minimum payment. So it'll say minimum payment of $10. So you're expected to make the minimum payment of $10 per month, right? So a lot of people think that if you make the minimum payment of $10 per month, you'll be exempt from the crazy, crazy 19.99% or however much interest that that the card has, right? So that's a little kind of a big misconception. Not little. This is really serious because when you think about it, right? This is how most of the banks they generate their money, right? So what happens is, so people ask, what is this $10 per month minimum payment even for if it doesn't help? It doesn't help with the 19.99% purchase interest. So there's something called a late payment. So if you have late payments on your card, not only is it bad for your credit score, it's also bad because on top of whatever you owe, so let's say you owe 3,000 and your limit is 5,000, right? And you never did a payment, you're late, you didn't do your minimum payment either, your credit score is going to go down. And also you're going to be charged a late payment on top of the 3,000 you owe, and on top of that, so you're going to be paying 3,000 plus 19.99% purchase interest plus the late payment. Okay, let me get rid of that. So plus, let's see, late. So let it sink in for a bit. All right, just think about how much this is actually going to be. You have $3,000 and you already owe, and you have to plus another 19.99% on top of your 3,000, and then you also have to pay for your late payment. So that's why a lot of people they just pay the $10 per month minimum payment, and then they just get rid of the late payment, right? So if they get rid of the late payment, it's just 3,000 plus 19.99 plus purchase interest. That's it. There's nothing left, right? So they think that it's okay to make the minimum payment, but it's not helping the principal, right? The principal is so high that if you're making the minimum payment per month, you'll never be able to finish paying off this balance over here, right? So that's a little simple breakdown of what the minimum payment and what the minimum payment, what the 19.99% interest is. And there's also another thing very devilish that's called the cash advance. So cash advance, a lot of people think that, oh, I'm just going to take money out of my credit card. It's easy. You know, I have 5,000 limit. I have $5,000 limit. I can just take cash advance, right? Absolutely incorrect. Unless you want to sink so deep into this debt hole that you'll never get out, then you want to go for cash advance. So what cash advance is here is that cash advance is calculated daily. So let's say if you did a cash advance of just $200, right? On top of your $200, your cash advance is around 21.99%, and this is only APR, right? So what is APR? It's an annual rate, right? So it's not like, oh, it's gonna be charged a lot. You have to divide it by, like, you gotta divide it by 12, do all that math. But honestly, it's a couple, like couple, like, even though it's not going to be a couple hundred, if your balance is really big, it's going to be a couple hundred, right? And for cash advances, it's really scary because they start charging you daily, right? So if you do a cash advance of 200, they're going to start charging you, start calculating how much you did daily. All right, so for $200, 21.99%, it's going to be like $10, $20, $30, depending on how long you keep this cash advance there, right? If you don't pay it back, if you don't pay back the $200 cash advance, it's going to stack, and it's going to stack very hard on top of you. All right, and there's another. This is all covered and everything. Now, another misconception is that I have to wait until the end of the month to do my payment. So another thing is monthly payments. You can actually do your payments anytime you want, and especially with online banking, it's so easy, right? You just sit at your house and then you log into your online banking portal and you just pay your credit card. So let's say you owe here. Let's say you owe $4,000, right? You're almost maxed out on your 5,000 limit credit card. What do? Right now it's only the second week. It's only second week into the month, and you're almost maxed out on your card, right? And what are you gonna do? And you have money sitting there. You're not gonna wait until the end of the month to pay off your card. So what you do is you just pay it off second week, and then immediately after you pay it off, what's gonna happen? Let's draw a line here. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna immediately, after 24 hours, you're gonna have your 5,000 limit back, because if you owe $4,000, you only have a limit of 1,000. You only have 1,000 spending left, because 5,000 minus 4,000, 1,000, right? So you only have 1,000 left. So if you owe 4,000 and you immediately pay back the 4,000, then you'll be able to have a 5,000 limit again. So the limit just goes back. That's why I mentioned at the start, it's a revolving credit. That means if you just keep throwing money at whatever you spend, it'll immediately go back to the limit. So that's a very brief breakdown of how credit cards work and how you should be using it. Another big question, another misconception, some banking advisors or financial advisors, they always tell you to keep, let's see here, they want you to keep 36%, 30%. So they want you to keep 30% of the whole limit. So 30% of the whole limit is your max spending. So 30% of the whole limit, what this means is, let me break out a calculator. So if you have a calculator here, and let's calculate this. So $5,000 and times 0.3, 30%. So that means you're only able to use $1,500, right? So if you have a $5,000 limit on your credit card, why are you only able to spend $1,500, right? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And when I actually found out after working at RBC is that this is actually not the correct information, because like I mentioned before, right? If you use $1,500 and you pay it off the next day, so 1,500, you owe that, and immediately you pay 1,500. So right here, you pay, after you paid off, and the next day, immediately, right, your limit is going to go back to $5,000. So it's not like you ever owed anything, right? So you can make large purchases and get as close to this $5,000 limit as possible, and as long as you pay it back within the week, or like afterwards, immediately or something like that, right? The bank isn't going to, the bank and the credit scoring institutions like Equifax, TransUnion, they're not going to care that you spent close to this limit right here. So that's a big misconception that a lot of financial advisors, bank advisors, whatever, uh, they tell to you, because it's just simply wrong. Like I just don't know what to say. So they probably don't have enough money. Like that's what a lot of people end up doing, right? They don't have enough money to pay off their credit cards. So then they're curious about this 30% because they want to know how much they can hit in terms of the limit before their credit score starts, going down and down and down. But honestly, even if you pay it off at the end of every single month, you shouldn't even have to worry about your credit score getting hit. So let's say you spent 5,000, boom, maximum limit for this month. So you spent 5,000 and it's the end of the month, it's time for you to pay. And you paid 5,000 back. You paid 5,000 back. You won't get any, you won't be charged, so no charge for late payments, and you won't be charged for, no charge for purchase interest. So you don't get charged for any of these, right? So your credit score is not affected, there's nothing happening, right? They just see that they won't, like, honestly, they won't even care about why you spent 5,000 and it's close to your limit, and why you're paying it back. As long as you can pay it back, the full amount at the end of the month, your credit score isn't going to get like affected massively. All the banks care about when they pull your credit score is if you have payments made. So if you're late, we don't like that. If you have a derogatory, we don't like that. But if you're paying it off, there's no late payments, we don't go into your statements and be like, oh, you spent so close to that, right? So that's basically it in terms of how credit cards works. And I'll see you guys in the next video. And if you have any questions regarding any of this, just feel free to leave a comment in the section down below, and I'll try to make a video on that as soon as I can.